Hello, all. I'm going to give it a minute while people start joining, and then we will. Good afternoon. Thank you guys for joining. We're so glad you're here. Happy New Year. This is the first AutoLeap webinar of the year, so we're glad to have you guys. I do have a new face. Obviously, there was a different face on our marketing webinar. Vic Tarasik was on our webinar, and I'm going to introduce our expert speaker in just a second. But while you guys are joining, I just wanted to do a few housekeeping. We always do housekeeping before we start our AutoLeap webinars. This session is going to be recorded. So if you have to drop for whatever purpose, please feel free and know that you will get the recording most likely tomorrow, if not by Monday morning at the latest. We would love for you to stay. The engagement on this call is obviously to your benefit. We do host these so that you can get the most out of them. We do welcome questions. We want as much engagement as possible. We realize that you guys are not on screen with us and you cannot speak, but there is a chat and a Q&A function at the bottom. Please, please, please feel free to put those in. I will do my best to weave them into the session to our expert speaker, who I'm about to introduce. Again, this session is being recorded. And the only other thing that I will say is we will have a survey at the end of the session that will go out. We do ask that you fill that out. Do not put any not applicable or non-answers. We do send a $20 Amazon gift card to you guys, but please make sure that you fill it out into your entirety. The purpose behind the survey is so that we can continue to feed the information that you're looking for to better your businesses and moving forward. So without further ado, I do want to introduce our speaker of the day. So for those of you who are just joining, obviously there's a different face with me. I am lucky to have on the line today John Burkhauser. John has 35 plus years in the automotive experience that he wants to share with you guys today. He attended tech school and he grew up as a tech, a shop foreman, service advisor, a dealership manager, really everything. He has worked in and with independent shops. He's taught 10 years post-secondary automotive and trained shops to eliminate daily roadblocks for their service process. His goal is to help shops become more successful. He's been published numerous times in publications like Motor Age, and he's hosted many webinars. So John, we're so glad to have you today. Obviously, the topic of today is customer satisfaction through customer communication. There's a lot of really good nuggets that you have put together. So again, last note for those of you who are just joining, please feel free to put your questions in the chat and Q&A, and we will do our best to weave them through. But John, the floor is yours, and thank you so much for being with us today.
No, thank you so much, Amber. I really appreciate being here. And folks, I do appreciate being here to help you. As Amber already said, one of the things that I want to do is make it easier for you to be successful. And that's what this is all about. I'm not really here for any other reason but to make you successful. And as was already shared with you, we're going to be presenting today what we call the enhanced customer satisfaction through effective communications. And that's a mouthful, but I managed to say it, and you did too, Amber. Thank you. But communicating, my name, of course, is John, and a lot of people call me JB Burkhauser, and there's a good chance that some of you folks out there have seen me and know me from other places. Currently, I'm independent right now, so hi if you know me. All right, so let's get down to the meat of the product here, the meat of what we're here. It's all about communications. And one of the quotes that I enjoy the most is this one here by George Bernard Shaw. And it says the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And we all know how that happens. We say something to somebody and we think we're both on the same page, and the next thing you know, we're totally at all different options. I mean, we're in different places, and it never went across the way we wanted it to. And that's just one key aspect of what communication is the message that we're putting together. And what I'm trying to do here is show you throughout your business and your day, all the different ways that communication can trip you up in all different ways that you can use it to your advantage. So it's a clear way clear two-way communication, and these are needed for every step of what you do in a shop. And I'm not really going to spend a lot of time talking about the communications in a shop, but I'm going to be spending more time talking about your communications with customers. Okay. But the shop communication will affect that. And that's why I want to make sure everyone's aware of this. The service process. The service process, all of you know. It's that thing that the customer goes through every day, from the appointment, drop off, dispatch, inspection, estimate, and through the rest of the process. Every step here requires the be really good communications between the customer and the advisor and the tech, etc. I mean, the appointment, communicating what the customer is going to come in for and if they're going to wait or not, pretty important. Dropping off, an advisor listening and writing down what the customer says and not what they think is another important communication spot. Sorry, the mouth's kind of new today. It's not working all that well. All right. Dispatching, of course, we got to communicate to the technician. And then there's the inspection. And I'm a big favor person, and I'm a person that's a big, and oh, Lord. I'm a person who's really big into digital inspections because I really feel that they are going to make a world of a difference in your shop. And I've actually seen it. Communicating to the customer about the estimate and getting authorization, that digital inspection will make a world of a difference for you there. And of course, if you get it okay, getting that vehicle back out in the shop fixed and repaired, the invoice, communicating to the customer what was done today, what they may have declined, and setting them up for what they need in the future. That is a very important piece to this whole communication process with the customer. And that's where the exit interview comes in. We're going to be talking about that when we get closer to the end. So I think I made that kind of clear. Communication is critical. And to add to it, communication is critical in getting your customer back. Here's a couple of facts. And here's the thing I want to let you know. I'm going to give you a statistic. You can look it up and you're going to find it. All right. Did you know that a new customer, you only have a 5 to 20% chance of selling? But a customer that's come back, you have an up to 65% chance of selling to them. Why? Because they're back. They trust you. So part of this communication process we're going to be talking about is some of the steps that you should do to get customers back into your shop. Because when they start returning on a regular basis, they are going to make a big difference in your bottom line. So communications is customer trust. It's the foundation of everything that we do. So I think I've kind of beat that pretty hard. You can get the idea. It's that important that everyone should know. All right. When I was working in a shop as an advisor, I remember the phone was it. We could contact people in the early days. It was easy. You dialed a phone number, more than likely the person was there. They picked up. You had your conversation. You're done with it. All right. But things have changed. That phone is no longer the device that many of us grew up using and making our job easier. The first thing that came along that made it harder for us to use the phone was the answering machine. Because now people didn't have to pick up their messages. All they had to do is go in later and check it. That didn't do us any good because the vehicle's sitting up on the lift. We can't afford to have it sit there, so we're going to have to move it out. And then I say that the whole business about phones got worse when voicemail came in. Because now it's something that we don't see. You don't walk into your house like you used to and go, oh, is there an answer? Or is there somebody message on the machine or what? You don't do that because voicemail, you have to reach out and do it. And the problem with voicemail is it's become a point that many people never, ever look at their voicemails. So seeing 21,000 unanswered messages is pretty not unusual. It's something that's pretty standard because voicemail has made it easy to ignore that. All right. So that is another thing that's getting in the way of your communication with customers. So here's some statistics, and I do give you some links. In the first quarter of 2023, 25% of all unknown calls globally were spam. I can tell you that I was receiving up to 10 spam phone calls a day. And it's very, very frustrating. And I'm sure that most of you out there are receiving them. And, the only way you can deal with it is shutting it off. And that means you're going to shut off some phone calls that you really need to hear. That was 73.6 million phone calls a day that were spam. And that's pretty nuts. And this is working against you. All right. Because the epidemic that we saw there is telling people are not picking up the phone. And that's the other reason why voicemail is now being ignored, because how many times do you go to it and you find that you have a spam all over it and you don't want to look at it. But customers are not picking up phones. And that makes it much more difficult for us to reach out to them to get those authorizations, to remind them about their appointments and whatnot. So what I'm getting at here is the phone itself has pretty much outlived its usefulness. Now, mind you, it's not going to go away and there's still going to be use for it, and we'll talk about that. But for the most part, if you're still using the phone as your method of communicating with your customers, you're hitting a lot of barriers, a lot of roadblocks to your day. And going through what we're going to talk about here with the texting is we're going to show you why you should really consider it. Another reason why to consider texting over regular phone calls is that when you pick up the phone and you dial the number, it's 10 digits in our area here, and you wait till it rings through to voicemail, you've actually used 30 seconds. That's a lot of time, really, if you're standing there and you can't do anything else because it's ringing, you're trying to get through. And what makes this even worse is that after that 30 seconds goes away, the voicemail picks up and it's either not set up or it's full because they never answer it. Or even worse, in my opinion, is you get somebody's voicemail where they decide they want to entertain you with music, it plays for like 30 seconds and then it hangs up on you because it's full of it tells you. The frustration. We all run into this. And the thing about it is we can do something about it. So I'm going to give you some key statistics on text and SMS. All right. And these, again, you can look up. And matter of fact, these are changing all the time. I try to get more recent ones, but sometimes it's a little difficult. But this is all legitimate stuff. On the average day, consumers check their text messages more than any other app on the phone. I can assure you that there's a large number of you that have already picked up your phone maybe 2, 3, 4 times since this whole thing started, because that's what we do. And I think the average is like 1,000 times a day a person picks up and looks at the phone. There is a spec on that. There is a stat on that, but I don't know exactly what it is. 70% of consumers are wanting to get text messages from a business. Think about that, 70% of consumers. And it's very difficult to break this down according to shops and things of that sort, but consumers with businesses in general, 70% of them, they want to receive text messages. And 61% of them want to have the ability to respond to you. Because, think about this. What a text message does for us is very concisely sends messages back and forth. Okay. And that in itself can cause some communication problems. But at the same time, that gets the point across in any situation. Because, just as I already mentioned, many of you have already looked at your phone and you're looking at different things that are going on. You're checking the phone as you're going, because if a message comes through, you just ding, 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 you send it right back and you're done. Okay. So that's why it works. And finally, on this screen, 55% of businesses are now texting their customers. It's happening. It's here. Now, I remember when I started giving webinars and things of that sort, this business about 10 years ago, one of the big pushbacks about text was that it wasn't fully accepted. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's fully accepted now. All right. 292 million people in North America text every day, which is 80% of the population. So I think making it easy for 80% of the population to reach out to you is something that's really important to your business. And these two figures are pretty big right here, besides the size. All right. 90% of messages are open within 3 minutes. You get a text message. And again, using the example of you sitting there watching me right now, if a text message comes through, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to look at it. If you're out in the shop and working on something, you had your phone down, what are you going to do when you get back to your phone? You're going to pick it up and look at it. And I think the figure is actually higher than 90%, but over 90% of those text messages are looked at in 3 minutes, 99% of them in 24 hours. And the response to these messages is as high as 90% within the first minute or so. Okay. So that's that one figure. 85% of your customers prefer to get a text message over a phone call or an email. Again, remember, you're fighting all the spam with the phone calls and email. That's a lot of spam too, but it's a lot more hassle to get to it. So your customers are looking for you to do this. So one of the questions that comes around now is, what about those customers who still want to use their phone? Excuse me, I get a little sip here. Well, God bless them. Here's the thing. If you wind up using text messaging, I can almost assure you that the amount of time saving and the amount of information and messages going back and forth is going to open you up so that those customers that want to use the phone, they're actually going to benefit too. You're going to have the time to talk to them because the phone's not ringing off and the hook and all that stuff, because you reduce that by using text messages and keeping your customers up to date. So these people, they're still there, and over time they're going to get to be less and less. And you know what? The older generation, my mother's 85, she has an iPhone and she doesn't text, but she knows how to do everything else with it. And the reason she doesn't text is because she's kind of blind. But the point being is that many grandparents realize that in order to communicate with their kids, their grandkids, they had to learn how to text. So that whole age thing's going away. All right, so what can we use text for? Appointment reminders is a big thing that I like about it. Updates on the vehicle when it's in a shop. Sending digital inspections. Customer service, reaching out and saying, hey, how was your visit? What was going on? Sending documents. Now you can send estimates, you can send inspections and everything via text to a customer. Payment. COVID made payment a really big thing. And we're going to talk about how that's going to change some of what you do in your shop if you're using text to pay. Social media is yet another way your customers are communicating, and it's really important for you to get involved with it. Marketing and promotions, basically the same thing, but text solutions have the ability to do all or most of these things. And that's one of the things I want to preface right here. I'm talking text solutions in general, even if you remember where I'm from. And I know AutoLeap has a really great texting system in place. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to give you the whole kit and caboodle and leave it up to you to find who gives you all the options that you want. And I'm sure that you're going to find what you want. All right. So how do shops handle this? And I've seen all different ways of this being handled. And one of them being is that somebody's personal phone becomes the text messaging phone. And that's usually a manager or an owner or something like that. And some shops got smart and they actually got a separate phone just for texting. All right. Well, the bad and the good. The good is you just giving your customers a way to reach you, but 24/7. And just like in the picture that'll on my screen here, you can see that getting a text message or being bothered while you're having dinner with your family and whatnot is a good possibility of happening. And the shops that had the text phone, somebody took that home every night. So it was somebody else's job to take that home and answer any text that came through 24/7. Good way to start things, but I think we need to separate our personal life from our business. And this here does not make that possible. All right. So what I'm recommending is that you look at text applications, one that stand on their own, all right, and ones that are built into different systems. Just like AutoLeap here has a great system too. All right. Also, some of the systems here are integrated, and I think being integrated is one of the most important parts of having any kind of tech solution. And the reason is the customer's information is immediately available to you when you're sending out text messages. The SMS-based system usually is automatically integrated, which means it has all the ability to reach into the customer's history and everything like that and send you messages. Now, we're going to focus on the SMS because that's the best way. But the idea here is you want to get a solution that connects and can pull information out of your management system because that makes it easier to communicate with your customers. So integrating, so let me take a step back here. If you don't have text, these are some of the things that you really want to look for. The integration with the shop management system. And already I've expressed why that's important a couple times. All right. The access to customer contact information is going to make it quicker and make it more efficient. You need a text solution that's always, I like to have it always available. So if I'm working in my management system and it's not part of the management system, I want to have a window or something like there, or a little heads up that tells me there's messages coming in. You're looking for something like that because you know what? The text messages are going to come and go during the day. And a lot of times just clicking and saying, yeah, we're looking at it or whatever it might be is all you need to do to solve that customer's concern. All right. Canned messages. Many of these systems come with these pre-built messages that will self-customize them, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And the better systems come with canned messages and the ability for you to make your own. That is really big because I like to personalize the messages I send out. And also, I do this thing that I call bending the software, where I go along and I will use the software to do things that it wasn't designed for. So I might come up with some kind of crazy messages. And of course, right now, my brain's not telling me one of the examples. Well, I'll give you an example in a little bit. An automation. If your tech solution's connected to your customer information, most of them allow you to do automated texting, appointment reminders, everything that you do by phone or by email or whatever. Many of these systems automate that and make it happen through text. So we've been talking about texting solution. And if you don't have one, I'm going to tell you when you get it, it's going to be, oh, happy day. All right, because it's going to make a big change in how your business runs and how you deal with your customer. Because remember, the customer is the business. And if the customer doesn't feel comfortable with your communication methods, that customer is not going to have a good experience and they're going to leave you. And that's not good. All right. So you decide to get the text messaging solution. There's a setup period. Now, one of the things that I've learned in my years of traveling to different shops and whatnot is that you have software. I mean, on my phone, for example, I have all sorts of apps and stuff like that, and you do too. And you probably, like me, maybe only use 1 or 10%, 15, 20% of those apps, right? And all the rest of them, they're there just for the ride. But on those ones that you use, do you always fully use it? No. You might just go, I know how to text, and that's all that's important. I don't care about all the other things it can do and whatnot. So if you already have a text solution, what I'm inviting you to do is to step back and take a look at what it can do for you. And hopefully, as we go through this, you're going to recognize there's other things that it can do besides that just quick back and forth with a customer. So as I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of canned messages. If it comes with messages, that's great. If it doesn't, you want to sit down and create new ones. You want to make sure you're personalizing to your customer base, your shop, et cetera, et cetera. And here's the other thing about creating canned messages or anything that you can modify. It's always should be modified. If you're using the same messages a year from now, all of them the same, well, God bless you if you got them all right, but there's a good chance that some of them need to be tweaked. So remember to go back and tweak things. All right. The next thing is training the staff, and we're going to go deeper into these things. And when you train the staff on how you want to use the texting, you want to set the expectations for its use. I think that at this point, turning the system on is what we should do. And why I make a point of that is I know a lot of shops, and I've worked in them, where something new comes in the door and it's turned on immediately and no one knows how to use it. And that is failure. It's a setup for failure because people are not going to use it and it's just not going to work the way you want it to. So I'm a big fan of doing the setup, the staff training, and setting the expectations beforehand. And this is one thing that I think a lot of shops miss. And mind you guys, you do a lot of things right. But in my experience of going out there, these are some of the things I see rarely not being done as well as they can be. And that is training customers. You literally do need to spend a little bit of time, even though 80%, 90% of the population is there texting back and forth. Are they expecting a text from you? Especially if you're just starting texting. So you want to have a communications with that customer and you want to train them about that. And we'll go into that. And here's the other thing, and I kind of already alluded to this. After a usage of maybe a couple of weeks, in the beginning, more frequently than later, sit down with the staff and, hey, how's the texting work for you? What do you see? What do you see needs to be changed? And this is important for everyone because the whole staff has buy-in to it. And at the same time, you're tweaking it to make it work for your staff and your customer base. So I'm a big fan that whenever you start something new, even if it's digital inspections, you should have staff check-ins more frequently in the beginning, and then you expand them out afterwards. Okay. And that I feel is a way to make it successful. All right. So here's AutoLeap, and we're using this as an example where you can actually build your own templates. And it's pretty straightforward and simple. All right, let's get this up a little closer. We can look at it. You'll see here that the software allows you to text in, type in whatever your message is going to be. And then you're going to have these other things in here that we call variables or wildcards. There's different companies calling different names. What these variables do is that this one here, and this is why integration with the management system is important, we'll look into this customer who you're about to send this text message, or if it's being automated, it's going to grab that customer's name and put it right up here. And then if we have an appointment set up, it's going to look into the calendar and tell them the start date and the start time. So that's what these things do, is that they will customize every individual message based on the information that's in the customer's history and appointments and everything. And the thing about these is they look crazy. You're like, oh my God, it looks like computer language. You know, it is. But the point here to make is that some systems use parentheses instead of brackets. Some systems want all caps. Some systems want spaces and not dashes. It sounds like a lot, but once you just figure out what the system likes to use, well, let's take a step back. A lot of systems they actually show you what they are, and some of them you can click and drag and right into the messages you're going. So there's a lot of different ways of customizing these messages, and it's pretty easy. So I highly suggest that you take it a little practice and work on it. And there you go. What you just saw happen is that if this message was going out to this customer, the start date, the appointment date showed up, what time they're due, what the first name is going to fill in there, and then my shop name, JB Automotive, right below. And that's what we want to do, customize these messages to our customers. Training the staff. It's simple. We're going to be using text, all right? And what you want to do is spend some time sitting down with your people, and you know, this is why we're doing it. This is what we're doing. Get their input too. I'm not a big fan as a manager of just telling people to do stuff. I like to get feedback from people and try to do that. And that's part of the training. And the training here is just the basics. Hey, we hire people, we bring them in, and in many circumstances, they don't get shown how to use the management system, or they get shown just a real quick through, and they barely know it. So like they're typing everything out every day and all that stuff. Taking the time and showing somebody what these canned messages are and how they can be built and how they can be used and how easy it is just to click and send text messages, it's worth it. Even though it seems pretty obvious, it's obvious to you, but not necessarily to the individual that you just brought in. And while you're doing this, you want to set the policy for using it and what the procedures are going to be. You don't want just to let it go rampant. You don't want people on the desk sending out messages to technicians and whatnot, because here's the thing. Every message, and we'll discuss this, is time-stamped and kept. So conversations that may not be, safe at work and stuff like that, they just went out, and you don't want to do it. You don't have customers, sending bad language back to you and whatnot. So there's a lot of little things that you want to make sure people are aware that texting, that can make a big difference in how you communicate with your customers and how you upset your customers. All right. Finally, turning the system on, as I said before, oh, happy day. And yes, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to figure out what's going on. Excuse me. It's going to figure out you and your staff. It's going to be rough. It's going to be slow. It's going to take up time. But the thing is, sometimes you got to take a step back to take 2 steps, 3 steps forward. So bear with it. Push through. Have those meetings. Get everyone together. Have everyone on the team tell you how's the best way we should be using that. And then finally, training the customers. And this is in a few different aspects. The first and most important thing that you need to know, that if you're not currently using text, or if you are using text and did not go through this, I highly recommend you do it, is you need to allow your customers the chance to opt in. This is required by law. Spam on the phone has just gotten nutty. It's crazy all the time. Texting so far has been pretty smooth. It's a lot less, but it's growing. The FCC wants people to have the option to say, no, I don't want text from those businesses and whatnot that they want. And what they do is they put a little incentive plan together for you. There's a $500 fine for you texting somebody that doesn't want to be texted. And if they report you, $500 per text. So you do the math, 10 text messages rejected by a customer is $5,000, and it just keeps building. And if you just sent out a mass text message to 1,000 people and some percentage of them don't like you, not a good thing. So you definitely want to get your customers to opt in. And this is all the result of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, otherwise known as the TCPA. Your opt-in message has to identify your business. So you should have JB Automotive up there. Your messaging needs to be limited. You shouldn't be texting people outside of the 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. window. And also, I would probably suggest not on Sundays or holidays and stuff like that. And that's one of the things also about your text system. Make sure it gives you the ability to go in there and make adjustments to these things. Some people still pay for text. I remember my one daughter getting this big bill because they charged her 3 cents per text, but it's crazy. But anyway, some people don't anymore, but you want to be sure that it says text message rates may apply. Privacy. What are you doing with the customer's information? They need to have a way of seeing what you're doing with that phone number and the rest of it. So that's usually a link or something. And every text message should give your customer the ability to say, I'm done with this. I'm opting out. So your message has to have all that information. You need them to respond yes and send that back and keep it because if there's ever a concern or a problem that they were not opted on, you have the proof that they did. So those of you that are already using texting to do this, you might want to think back about it. Another tool that's in your toolbox for texting is the digital business card or V card. And a lot of people already know what this is. It used to be unusual, but you get your first message from someone, it pops up at the top and says, new contact. You want to add this to your contacts? Well, if you have a business card, a V card or whatever, and your text software allows you to send it, with just a couple of taps, that customer is going to be able to enter all your information into contacts. And that means every time that they text, you text them from that point on, they know it's JB Automotive. And that's really important because otherwise, as you're going to see here in a moment, if you don't have if they don't have your information in their phone, you're just a random phone number. And if you're like me, because of all the spam, spoof, and all that fun stuff, dink, gone, and I block it. So you want to eliminate this. You want to get yourself into their contacts because the other side of this is when you're having the conversation about texting with your customer, you want them to know that when they see a text from JB Automotive, it's about their car. And if they want to get that car in and out faster or want to know what's going on with their car, they need to respond. That's the incentive. Remember, many of you have been looking and sending texts since we started this year. And what was that, about half hour ago? And I'll bet you some of you have sent more than 10. It's the way we communicate. And because whoever sent that text message to you, their name comes up, you reach out and you communicate with them, especially if it's the boss or whoever. All right. You also want to inform your customers how you're going to use texting. All right. What kind of message types are you going to be sending out to your customers? Appointment reminders, vehicle updates, whatever it is. And what you're seeing here is an example of an AutoLeap message that they send out to remind customers that they booked an appointment. And this here is a key piece. Reply 1 to confirm or 0 to cancel. And we're going to talk about why that's really important to you because there's things you can do to make your processes work better. All right. So sending this out, the customer hits the 1 and sends it out, and there it is. All right. And notice here, between that message that I received and this one, I dropped in the information for the phone number. So it's no longer a random number up here. It is now an actual shop name. Okay. And that is really important because you don't want to be ignored. Anyway, this customer sent a one to you and you sent a message back saying, hey, thanks for confirming whatnot. And what this does too, is just like the dentist and doctor, as most of you probably already experienced, you get that text 2 days in advance. And you forgot all about it, but now you remember. This here is going to generate a lot more customers showing up for their appointments. But additional to this, if you have a system similar to what AutoLeap offers, there's a little sensor, I'm not a sensor, but there's a little indicator somewhere that's going to let you know that text messages come in. And if you are actively using your reminder service and it's connected to the calendar in your management system, you're going to find that many of these will automatically react. As I understand it here, and I'm sorry, I should have done my homework a little bit here, but when the appointment shows with all the little lines through it, and Amber's going to come in and correct. When it shows,
We're just here for moral support.
when it shows like this with the lines through it, the customer hasn't confirmed, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And then when it goes solid, the lines disappear, the customer has confirmed.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else to add before I
No,
go?
you did it. A
Well,
plus.
here is the key piece to this, folks. If you're doing appointments right, which means you should practically be building the estimate while you're building it. Customers come in for an oil change, tire rotation, alignment, state inspection, all that stuff. All those lines should be built in there. You should be able to, if that customer authorizes or tells you that they're coming in, click on this and take a look. You already know what the customer's coming in. Oh, they're coming in. We told them they needed a new cabin filter last time you're in. Well, this bugger has to be ordered. Well, guess what? That customer confirms that a couple of days in advance, and it's up to you to set out how long. You look and see what parts you don't stock. You can reach out to your parts people and have those parts pre-deliver. You're like, well, I ain't going to do that. Well, they will, because think about this. Not only does it benefit you and your customer to have the parts sitting in place when the customer arrives, but they're going to stop. JB Auto Parts is going to stop by your business 2 or 3 times a day. If they drop those parts off in advance on another trip when they're bringing you parts that are due for a vehicle that's already in the shop, they save a trip. Matter of fact, they save 2 trips, because if that customer doesn't come in, you can just put it in with an order when they drop one off and take it back. Yeah, I know it does a little bit of financial finagling and all of that stuff, but I think that's definitely something to consider. That getting those automatic appointments out there and having customers confirm is very important. Digital inspections. One of the biggest problems with paper inspections is the customer's not in the shop. They don't see it until they pick up the car. What good is that? You know what I mean? A digital inspection, on the other hand, it allows you that once you've done the inspection and you've done your estimate, that you can send this out to the customer via text. And whatever your inspection offers, pictures, descriptions, and everything like that, that customer has the ability to tap on those things and open them up and see it. Now, let's take this to an even other step. You have a waiting customer. I'm a big fan in sending them a text message with the inspection. I will sit down next to them and we can go over it on their phone, or you can have a tablet where you already have access to it. And you can show the customer what you're sending them, because here's what's going to happen. They're going to start expecting these messages. And when they start expecting these messages, they're going to look at them. And when you send the estimate and when you need them to authorize things, they're going to do it all through text. All right. So you send this out to the customer, they get it. Then you send a digital estimate with it. And here's the thing. AutoLeap allows you, the customer, to approve it. Know what? That gets time stamped. It's going to tell you the phone number of the customer. It's going to tell you when they tapped on it, when it came through. No more of that he said, she said, because also here's the other thing to think about texting. We all have individual phone numbers. You used to dial 1-800-MY-HOUSE, and everybody in that house answered that same phone. But now with text, it's going to be Bill's phone or Margaret's phone or whoever's phone it is, and that's their signature, their name. All right. And think about being able to send a document like this in the format that they can read on their phone And if they want to, they can open it up on the computer and read it too, and have the approval right then and there. It's that time, right? I can't get through anything without thinking about pizza. Pepperoni.
We love pizza here too.
Pepperoni. And you're like, well, besides making me hungry, why are you doing this to us, JB? Because that looks really good, and I'm going to pick up my phone and text the pizza people. Well, because these people do something that we need to do besides eat the pizza. Well, deliver it, that is. Here, they have a pizza tracker. It's Domino's. You order it, you have the app on your phone, your order is placed. It's being made. It's baking, baby. It's going into the box and it's going to be delivered. Think about this. If you either do it manually or the software that you are using gives you the ability to tell the customer your vehicle's in the shop. We're going to be reaching out to you shortly with an estimate. Your vehicle's done. All this can be done in an automated, there's some software out there that can do it automatically, but I'm going to tell you, even if you have to do it manually and send these things individually, and this is where those canned messages are really important, this alleviates one of the biggest things that we have trouble, we struggle with. We forget what it's like to be a customer. Well, most of us probably. And I mean, for years, I always had my car in the shop. I got it done. I did all I didn't have to worry about. And then after leaving the shop and doing things like this, I got to drop it off. That unknown of anything, not knowing that it's at the shop, you know that, but you don't know it's being looked at. You don't know what's going on. Giving the customer that information is going to smooth a lot of their anxiety out if you do it. And I hope you see how big this is. And this is like the pizza tracker. I can run around the house and do whatever, but when I see it's out for delivery, I'm going to stand in a window and wait for it. All right. And being able to give our customers those statuses when that vehicle's being worked on and when it's finished and things of that sort, it's going to make a big difference with your customer because it's communicating something that it's hard to communicate. And you know what? That will also eliminate many phone calls come in. My car done yet? If you're sending a message and say, hey, we're on schedule, should be done by 5, blah, 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 they may not call you. I'm going to say may because, someone's going to. The text can be used for sending an invoice to a customer and for them to use text to pay. So let's take a moment here and think about this. One of the most uncomfortable parts of the whole process is, separating the customer from their money because, it's not cheap when you're working on vehicles. Sending the invoice to the customer allows one, if you have text to pay, for them to pay it remotely and it gets that uncomfortable side out. But here's the other thing it does. The customer can look at that invoice and prior to picking up can reach out to you if they have questions about it. They're not going to show up all huffy and puffy because they didn't understand something because the communication wasn't all that great. Of course, there's going to be huffy puffies. But anyway, the point being here is that your customer gets to look this over. If they have questions, they can reach out to you via text before they pay for it. And if they're happy, then they text to pay and it's all taken care of. And that leads us down to the next item that I'm going to mention. The exit interview. I mentioned earlier that recurring customers could be the cause of 80% of your profits. You have a higher chance of selling. Why? Because they're back, they trust you. And here's the thing, you can set them up with recommendations. You can remind them of work that they didn't get done. All these things can occur because you're communicating with the customer. And what you want to do is kind of pull it all together. So because the customer's paid for their invoice, if they had any pre-questions they've already handled, they show up, what can you do today? If there's any more questions, you can answer them. 2, you can go over what was done if need be. But here's where it is. If they didn't get something done, you can reinforce why it's important for them to get it done. And if there's recommendations, you can reinforce the recommendations. And you can tell them when their next appointment is. We don't do this. Many of us don't do this. The doctors do it. The dentists do it. I may be in the dentist chair screaming bloody murder because they're tearing half my mouth out, right? But I can't run out the door screaming because they're going to stop me at that counter and tell me, you got to set up the next appointment. and this is what we're going to do. Well, we should do the same thing. And what that does is, if you remember a number of frames back, that makes the service process a circle. And that's what's important for you folks to have better profits, getting the customers back. And this process here can help make that happen. I don't do social media. I had someone say this to me the other day. I don't do social media. I don't care about it. Well, that means you're ignoring 86% of the population. So good luck with that other 14 coming in. Because here's the thing to consider here is that when I pick up my device and you pick up your device and you're looking for something, what do? You go to Google Maps, auto repair, try it in your own area. Go there and look for auto repair. Where do you come up on that list? Are you red pin? Are you in those first 3, 4 job people that come up there? Because you know what? They're the ones that get all the clicks. And how does that happen? Well, that happens because they participate in social media, which means they're answering reviews, they're posting things, and they're interacting with their customer base. And that's how people are going to find that search function. Where you rank is based on how well you're using your internet and your Google. And for those of you that don't know this, Google is really nice to you. They gave you a Google business page, and many shops out there have not connected to it. They've not grabbed it, made it their own. So when you do a search and you find your shop, click on it and see if there's one that says claim this, because you want to, because there's probably and a good chance that there's reviews on there already. But anyway, using text makes it very simple to have your customers review. If they're standing right in front of you and they're like, oh, this is the greatest thing, you guys did great, you can send them a text right now and have them do the review, and that's more likely to happen. Or it could be automated in your system that after the invoice is paid up, 24 hours or whatever it's set up, they get a text that asks them to review. And know what? You're going to get bad reviews, no question about it. It's how you handle them that makes them good. And that is responding to them, trying to placate the customer, and at the same time, if you can't, noting what you tried to do and let everyone else see. Because that's going to boost you up there. It's going to give you good ratings. 4.6 stars is the magic number. 5 stars, no one's perfect. So how's that happening? 4.6 stars. So if you get 1 or 2 bumps, it's not always that bad. But using text to send this request to get that review is a very big thing for your shop. And be sure that when you do get reviews, one of the things that they highly recommend is that you respond to it and you have your own initials like, thanks, JB. Appreciate you sending a review in. Because you want to keep in contact with your customers. Marketing. AutoLeap and many other products give you the ability to go in and have automated messages, text messages or emails. I prefer text messages that you can set it up. You can tell it when to send it out, what triggers it to go out, when to set it out. You can build a template specific for this. So this is a first-time customer. You want to say thanks for being there, and you want to send a message out to them, maybe 2 days or something like that. Afterwards, it's up to you. You figure out what your software can do and what you want. This going out to a customer may be the best way to get them back, because like, oh, they reached out to me after my visit. That's great. All right. So take advantage of this, because there's another big reason. When it comes to marketing, the best way to do it, if you're doing snail mail and whatnot, is a postcard. So you go out and pay for a postcard, design a postcard, post a card, send it out, and all that stuff. All that money is spent. And here's the worst thing about it. The marketing mavens, the people out there that tell you marketing is important, which it is, are going to tell you that out of all those that you sent out, they wound up in the trash just like that thing did. 4.25% is the highest response rate for marketing and using postcards. So if you send out 100 cards, that means you got 5 back. And know what? If you offered a discount, you have to sell a fair amount on those vehicles to make up the money that you spent to send the postcard out. Text allows you to market to your customers. All right. There's different ways that the texting will allow you to do this. You can send coupons or just reminders and things of that sort. But this keeping in contact with your customer between visits, again, keeps your shop forefront in their mind when it comes time to get work done. And also maybe triggers the thought, oh, next month I'm due for inspection. Oh, I'm due for inspection this month. I got to make sure I make that appointment. Marketing and sending out discounts or just happy birthdays. Some of us write down people's birthdays and then probably going to send a big pile of gifts out to me, right? But anyway, the point being here is that keeping in contact with your customers and marketing to them and using text doesn't cost you anything else besides the text monthly fee or whatever it might be. Think about that. Lastly, CYO, covering your ankles, CYA, covering your ankles, all right? As I mentioned before, every text message is going to have a phone number, and we have phone numbers like Social Security numbers, and then some people have more than one. But anyway, the point being here is Michael Jackson right here. We know that was 2 months last time we talked to him. We had the whole conversation and everything that Michael and we talked about. If there's ever an issue where you need to go to court and say, hey, we did have this conversation, or they did do, you know how it goes. Having this data, being able to print this out and take it with you and showing the conversation, especially if it's something where, it's ridiculous why they're taking you to court, this can save you a lot of bucks. All right. So the big thing about text is everything that we've covered, mind you, folks, I run through that pretty quick. But the most important thing is text is the way people talk now. All right. Text can be looked at anywhere. Text is your friend. And the big thing that I will leave you with is that even though text is it's going to be a really helpful way to keep your communications with your customers going well. Don't overuse it, because if you get people opting out, telling you to stop, that's not a good thing. All right. And remember, part of that conversation with educating the customer is letting them know those are coming so they don't say stop because they don't know who you are. All right. So that's my version of enhancing customer satisfaction through effective communications. And if you can say that 3 times fast, you're better than me.
I can't. No. I did have something that I wanted to bring up. I did just send you guys the survey. Please do fill that out. We would love your feedback. So one of the attendees, they have all 5 stars, and they've also been told that it's not good. Should they ask for 4 stars every once in a while? I mean,
The way I've seen that work, Amber, is that there's a filter in place with the company that you may be doing your stars through. Okay. That filter is what takes away all the lower than 5s. If you can get that shut off, I think that would be a good thing. I don't want to tell anyone to go out there and do 4s. That's a really good question, and it's something I would want to think about, but I don't think that would be the route to go.
yeah.
If you've earned all 5, don't worry. All right. Don't worry. Respond to those people, because that will overtake it. If you respond to all the happy people, that shows that, one, they're not fake. Well, maybe they're not fake, but the thing is, it opens up that communication and shows that these people are real. You're real because you're responding to them and they're sending a message. So that's a good question. I would want to think about that.
Well, I like her follow-up to that. She says, I think we earned them. I think it should be, I know we've earned them, Sky. So put that in there. I know you've earned those too. So if that's the case, then that's the case.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, on the page that they get displayed, if you can, or if you have them showing up on your website, we've earned these.
Yeah, I love that. You have earned those. You're right. I know we've earned them. Exactly. Change that around. So I don't think we have any other questions, unless anybody has any last burning questions to ask JB. We've had some really good back and forth in the chat and engagement just on things that you've said, some really good stats that you've shared. I find it very interesting that, what was it, 4.25% response rate to the marketing. I think that's really interesting, right? And all of those things, even the newsletters that you can create through the AutoLeap CRM, like the discounts, those types of things. It's in the system, so you're not having to pay for all that print. Great presentation. Yeah. Lots of thank you for the presentation. We really do appreciate it, JB. I've really enjoyed this. Welcome to the first AutoLeap webinar for you, the first of many. Yep. And we're really excited, guys. In the survey, there is a question. If you would like to be in touch with JB, I will personally introduce you guys. But we appreciate it. Evelyn, it's good to see you. But thank you guys for joining. And JB, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, folks.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend. Bye bye.